Hi, everybody. This is Matt Jezyk from Motif, and welcome to From the Ground Up. This is our fifth episode of the year, and we've got some really great content to go through with my colleague Tanya. A little program note before we get to that. So we're coming up on the end of the year, and we have one more episode that's going to be a little bit of an end of year wrap up about what we've been doing at a company. It's been a pretty big year for us. We came out of stealth, we launched a product, we grew as a company, we got great customers. So we want to do that. And our special guest there is going to be also Tanya, but then Amar Hanspal, our CEO as well. So tune in for that. Take a look at the website and anything else on social media. Make sure to sign up for that. It's going to be a great episode. But this episode is going to be awesome too, because I have one of my really good friends, Tanya. We work together. We've known each other over 19, 20 years
Yes,
now.
I remember.
Yeah, exactly right. Dirty little secret. So the cool thing is, so Tanya's an architect. She is one of the most engaging presenters that I know. She is a fierce champion for amazing new technologies, but also from a very humanist approach, I guess would be the way to say that. Humanistic approach. And she is a great colleague, friend, and I just spent a couple days with her in California, and we share a lot of similar interests and backgrounds and passions. And I'm really excited to have her on this episode. She is our director or head of AI. So heading up a lot of the things that we're doing in Motif aren't just about the current collaboration tool. They're about building a new platform. And a lot of the way, obviously, the world is changing these days is heavy emphasis on how AI and machine learning is changing our world, not just everyday use of like things like ChatGPT, but how is it going to change our profession as architects and engineers? And more importantly, how does a next generation design application need to include AI not just as a bolt-on, but as a fundamental piece of the fabric of the software? So with that, Tanya, why don't you say a few things about yourself?
Well, hi everybody. First, apologize for the slight delay in the start. We had some technical issues, as always. Why would things just go smooth? Well, first, thanks, Matt, for your friendship and for an amazing intro. Yes. So, about myself, I don't have a private life, so I'm just gonna talk about what I've done so far as a career. I was 12 years an architect in Vienna and in London, and then somehow the technology started to change, and I lost my heart and soul to tech. And I joined Autodesk, where I was really lucky to have worked under Carl Bass and Amar Hanspal, who kind of early on saw that I am very comfortable in non-comfort zone and tackling new challenges. So I led a lot of products and new initiatives. I'm incredibly proud that I was product manager of Revit, which we know became the industry standard, and even co-wrote the first three books on Revit because people are like, what is this thing? And I want my AutoCAD. And then I worked on a bunch of photogrammetry and laser scanning through Memento, which is now Recap, and some real-time storytelling for a tool for the Smithsonian. And then trying to build that as a generic tool with Project Play that did not become a product, but it was really fun to use node-based modeling in node-based approach for storytelling, and then some digital fabrication stuff, and then a new way to model, which was going to be the next generation of Elias design, but then ended up as freeform in Fusion. And then I went to a couple of startups working on high-end resolution metal 3D printing and built a couple of software there, and then Bright Machines, which was robotic automation of final assembly. So been a little bit around the block, putting products out there, starting from scratch, but always inspired by emerging technology. And as Matt said, I'm now head of AI for Motif.
So, given your background, and I love the story arc, like you might notice for those of you that have been following the series for a while or following Motif, there is a larger story arc of like a bunch of us that have worked in design, like either as architects or in technology and have built tools for architects and engineers. Pretty much everybody in the leadership here has like we left design and went into deeply into manufacturing. A lot of our colleagues from Bright Machines and myself in electric vehicle kind of space. But now we're back in the design space. And the world has changed. In some ways, it's changed a lot. In some ways, it hasn't really changed at all or enough. But I think one of the forcing functions that we've seen is AI. So that's why I really think it's great to have Tanya here. So Tanya, what makes you an AI expert?
Matt, you know how to ask the right questions. Geez, I'm not an expert. That's the whole point. I think anybody today who says they're an expert, just don't trust them because there are none. On one hand, you have the guys who are developing the core technologies and the foundational models. Of course, you can say they're experts, but they don't know anything about any of the industries, and technology that is not applied is not really of much value, right? And then on the other hand, there are people like us who got hit by this thing, by this avalanche called AI, and we're kind of breathless trying to catch them, say, what is going on and why is this thing moving so fast? And it's like a shifting lava under your feet, and especially for a product manager, it's incredibly difficult to both catch up, understand what it is. It's incredibly powerful technology, but also even being able to imagine a future with this thing. So I think we need to stay humble. It's important to be curious. It's important to start to both test the technologies, learn a little bit how they do in background. I did a MIT course, AI for product management. I was really curious to understand a little bit the math behind how things work in order to start developing an intuition. But I think it is really just the fearless testing, the fearless prototyping, trying and watching a lot of, attending places where architects talk, and when they see examples, to hear them, what do they see? How will that change? And most important thing is also to kind of share all our excitement, share what we see. And we can compete with others who are trying to do, but at the end of the day, the industry will leverage from that competition and excitement to do something, to really get something incredible. So really important. Also read papers, even if you don't understand everything. It's important to see where the scientists and academics are also poking.
I think that's a really good point. And one of the things that, obviously we've seen these different um, evolutions over time, shall we say, going from 2D to 3D, but not just 3D to parametric design and BIM, and then adding computational design and different ways to like have a little bit more rigor in how you describe a problem and solve problems and add sustainability, add analysis, fabrication, all this kind of stuff, extending the tools, but not using programming.
Yeah.
AI feels similar as a similar wave to that, but maybe a bigger magnitude. So I guess like maybe you could talk about that. Like what excites you most about AI like now in comparison to what we've seen before?
Yeah, so aside from the fact that I'm deeply depressed about how it will impact society, let's stay on the positive side. And first, I think that I share the feeling with so many architects and design technologists. It's so exciting to finally see that in industry something is moving and shaking. We've been so conservative, so staling for such a long time that I really love that so many people are seeing opportunities and start to build, be it pointed solutions or start to tackle, to poke what can it do for us. A couple of weeks ago, I did a keynote at the Green Build. And the whole point of that keynote was to actually celebrate what's all happening in the industry with AI. And I showed about, 70, 80 solutions out of a 300 that I had curated for a long time and just looked at what's happening. And by the way, we will be making the next webinar. I will show part of that presentation. So if you're interested to celebrate what's going on and not just what we do in Motif, please join. But back to your question. So first thing, it excites me that simply there is so much enablement and that I see that activating many more people. But very often people talk about the AI as automation, and that's the least interesting thing for me. Of course, we will do automation. Of course, architects would welcome not to do the boring, repetitive, predictable things if a machine can do that. But there is also the augmentation, which is also exciting. But I personally am mostly excited by what I call the end of the technology, the end of the terror of the technological expertise. And what I mean by that is that when we invented CAD, we needed CAD experts. And then we invented BIM. Now we needed BIM experts. And then rendering. Ooh, now we need rendering experts. And then computational experts. And all little architects are looking at these experts as gods. And I'm I'm joking, obviously, but the whole point was that very powerful tools were simply not accessible to everybody. Senior architects never got into Revit because they could not see themselves now learning for 3 months something. Junior architects also didn't go to Revit, especially students, because it was too constrained. It was simply the tools were not having the opportunity to be accessible to everybody and to recognize everybody's path. And to me, that is what excites me the most, because I really feel that the most important and most powerful technology, AI, will actually make the technology in the tools transparent. It will make it invisible. It will not be there. So basically, allowing us to not have to learn tools, but through using these smarter tools to actually hone in more and improve our craft. That is what I really want.
Hmm.
And once we do the tool that you and Lira and I and Amar and Brian are imagining, then I want to go back to architecture and practice again, because then it will be fun. Like
I
it's
think
not.
that's awesome. And that's, yeah, I like building the tools to support not just our generation, but the next generation. Like, how does the next generation think is pretty topical and relevant and is like a worthwhile endeavor on its own, but also building a tool that, you'd like to use in your own design profession, I think is super interesting.
Yeah, and look, it's really about ease of use. We all know every technology can do everything, right? Every tool can do everything. That's not the point. I really believe that the tools that really make things accessible and they're easy to use, and we have overused the word easy to use, but actually those are going to win. And I think that is why the first reaction of people who see Motif in general is something that they appreciate, the fact that actually, you can use Revit models without being in Revit. You can use Rhino models without being in Rhino. And
Hmm.
that's already great. That particular thing doesn't even have to do with AI. It's really about thinking that we cannot continue exclusivity in the technology tools. And I
Yeah.
think that's how we also started the AI first tools in Motif.
So let's get
Accessible.
into that in a second. So like one question I do have though is like we talked about this over the last couple of days. Like, do you feel like the tools shape the design or the designer's thought process? I guess like yeah, and that's actually like a famous quote, like Marshall McLuhan, like the medium is the message. One of his other quotes is exactly that. The tools that you use, right? If you're using a fine Japanese sort of carpentry saw, that's different than using a chainsaw, right? So like you're gonna get different results based on the tools. Do you feel like this tool would be an inhibitor of a design or and allow you to explore in a different way? How do you feel like it would affect the design process?
Oh, good. I mean, there is no truth here. Every tool can be used and misused, right? And you and I were fighting a lot these days about that. I
Hmm.
mean, fighting philosophically, right?
Hmm.
I want us to build tools for those who see the opportunity to learn through the tool, to get guided through the tool. I'm not interested what some charlatans will do with those tools and pretend to be architects or pretend to know
Hmm.
something where they don't. I really, really, really believe that when we talk today with many architects, there is a breakdown in the process of knowledge transfer between the senior architects and the junior architects, and it's very often
Hmm.
they're not even in the same environment.
Hmm.
And if a junior architect, and I have to quote Marta from Foster's because I love that woman and she kicks ass and she always leads the way. But I really share that opinion that if you have a tool that, let's say, like Cyclops or something, where you can see multiple iteration simulations happening in milliseconds, you changing different parameters, etc., you start to build intuition, even if you didn't study that part of the process and you might never be
Hmm.
exposed to that. You start to build intuition. Oh, is this better or worse? Is this going to be worse for the carbon and the impact on the environment, etc.? Of course, whole point, and AI itself learns like that. Through many examples, it has learned to build intuition and infer what's good and bad, and we can do that as well, right? So
Exactly.
I really feel that with AI, it will be interesting. On one hand, I do believe that it will be a tutor and something that can help you build intuition about the things that you don't necessarily need to know in core, but you need
Uh-huh.
to know enough to give more meaningful inputs to the specialists who then will decide. But also, I
Hmm.
believe that by using more software that is orchestrated from core AI up, you will also make the software know you better, and
Hmm.
the software will start to shape itself more towards this company's
Hmm.
policy or this company's ethics or this company's approach or your personal approach. And that would be something new to us.
Absolutely. So why don't you start showing us, like, while we're talking, there's a bunch of great things that we've added in Motif so far, in the current application, and then the kind of near term, like over the next, month or so. Your team's been doing some amazing work, so I'd love to get into that. Maybe if you can kind of start
Yeah.
to show some of that. And then the other thing I wanted to say is like, uh, it is different. Like AI, like I mean, there's an idea of like the level of people don't need to be an expert, I guess, is the point that you're making. Like it flattens that learning curve for certain things, which is super interesting. Like it's inhibiting to look at a blank screen. Like if you're a non-software person and you're trying to write your first program and you're staring at literally a blank page, where do you start? The cool thing about these chat interfaces is you don't have to start from a blank screen, and they can take care of a lot of the grunt work for you, and you can start to have a higher level conversation quicker because you don't have to worry about all the nuances sometimes. And I think that extrapolation from like how ChatGPT works or Cursor or Claude into a design environment is super interesting, and like the opportunities there. But like let's maybe just talk about what we have like right now in the tool.
Yeah. And by the way, we can come back to this topic of how do we see that in the future you never have to start from scratch, but maybe you start from sketch, or when you start
Hmm.
from something
Yeah.
instead of modeling, you are actually editing after initial
Hmm.
concepts have been made. But let's start from where we started. And for those who already have seen, you will see here some new things that we added. For those who have not seen, we started like everybody did with the AI rendering. Why? Because diffusion models were so sexy and exciting to architects. Oh my God, I can get all of these things. I personally was not a big fan of text to image because I know that we always want our idea to be rendered rather than the computer to do stuff. But I must say that's the Balkan in me that, oh, this feels wrong. I do see the opportunity for just getting inspirations as well from text to image. But where we started, and actually the team started before I joined. I cannot take the credit for the first ideas for the implementation of diffusion models. So why we at all implemented diffusion or AI rendering in Motif was very simple. The tools, when we implemented this for the first time, April, May, what was it? The tools that were out there were either too generic. There were basic foundational models, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, OpenAI, Gemini. They were good for text to image, but not that good about actually doing your building because they were hallucinating and changing. It's like, wait, don't change it. I just want it to render, right? Or there were aggregators like Comfy UI, Flora Fauna, etc. And they were especially Comfy UI because that was the first one. They were way too complex. I went to one training. It was incredible from results that we created. But when I saw the interface, I'm like, oh my God, I thought that we're finally out of Grasshopper and Dynamo. And here
Hmm.
we are again. And I thought this is all about ease of use, right? And then
Hmm.
finally, there were some who started to build really sweet apps, but they were just doing that. So again, you have another separate tool, meaning that you had to go to Revit or Rhino, make your image, download it, upload it there, then make the rendering. Then, oh, that rendering now forces you to think maybe we should change the geometry, and then it was just too disjointed. So that was our first thing, to actually make powerful AI renderings that are optimized for architecture. What I mean by that also is that we have a couple of people who have incredible eye, and we really wanted to make beautiful renderings that we know architects are also, that touch their sensitivity, because sometimes I can recognize Midjourney. It's just so often cheesy, right? So it's optimized for architecture. We wanted to do simplicity without the cost of quality. And finally, be it integrated in the workflow. That we were talking during design review or collaboration about something, and I just snapshot in Motif, or Rhino, or Revit view, and say, what if we make the facade from this material or that material? Let's see how it looks at night, etc. So that was our
Hmm.
goal. And we looked at workflows. You know, with AI especially, it's really important that it's so exciting that I see people building tools that are looking for solutions and tools that, yeah, we do this because AI can, but at the end of the day, we have to think what are we trying to do, what are architects' deliverables or ways of thinking. So what we said we will support in the first release were workflows, and it is Revit to render, concept or Rhino to render, sketches to render, then 3D sketches on model to render, then questioning the physical things that you make, how can we make renderings of those, and then some early augmentations, adding people, this and that. So this was the very first video. I'm not replacing it because I really wanted for us to also feel how things have improved. But this is Motif, for those who have not seen it. This is a streamed or uploaded Revit model. And
This
you,
is Motif back in the Wayback Machine of July of
yeah,
last year or this
yes.
year.
So that's really important to mention. But yeah, the fact that you can open a Revit or Rhino model, and now I rotate it and made a couple of views. Those views are now saved on the left side, and now I place the view in Canvas. And I don't know if you saw, but literally I just pressed the arrow. I said it opened the rendering menu, and I just pressed the arrow. This is obviously sped up in the video. You will wait probably, between 30 seconds to a minute, but 30 seconds to a minute that I, without knowledge of light, materials, anything, can make this, that was for sure fascinating. And as you could see, it didn't hallucinate my building, etc. So we made this couple of styles, photorealistic black and white, watercolor, black and white, and posterize. I really wanted a black and white photography mode because I know how much we architects care about. We're really suckers about black and white photography because that very often shows the soul of a building. It doesn't.
And they're just beautiful. I mean, they just feel
They
like
really are.
Ansel
And
Adams,
I'll
you know?
show you my masterpiece that I'm so proud of. But jokes aside, it's like yeah, and you will see this is a non-deterministic model. Some images will be better than others. Sometimes you click the first time, it won't be the best ones. You can try again. So this,
Can you maybe, just for the uninitiated, maybe talk about, is this rendering? How does this compare to like traditional either
oh yeah.
offline rendering or real-time rendering?
I tell everybody for sure, let's not pretend that this is a real rendering. We call this AI render because it's just rendering pixels on screen, but it's not physically correct. It does not understand light materials and stuff. But having, diffusion models really help us arrive to incredibly good results without actually having to know any of that. And these are more than good for initial validation of ideas. You talk to a client, they want something, etc. I just want to not miss this. If you noticed until now, we were doing just one-click render, literally select which style and just click the arrow. When we said initially we do one-click render, everybody's like, that's for kids. I cannot control anything. Well, when they saw the results, it was not for kids, but I just showed in this example how I did add a prompt. What we wanted is we set these styles so that you can, without knowing anything about the prompt, get consistent results on certain types of renders. But of course, it gives you the path to then say, well, I want to now impact this rendering in a way I want. So in the first one that you just saw, I said, make the facade, big white panels. And in this one, I will speed it up a little bit. This one was about mass timber, and I'm a sucker for curtain. So on this one, we just said, make it curtain. And this is it. The renderings, you will agree, are really beautiful. I'm proud of myself because all my life I had to depend on somebody else to help me make any rendering. This is my
Eh,
masterpiece. This
This
is,
is so gorgeous.
yeah, I seriously want to apply for a photography competition on this one. This is the Viking Museum. And I could not believe the result. It's just really beautiful. No photoshopping, nothing, direct from Motif.
And just a little bit of background. So show notes, like we'll actually add a few things at the end. So this is a great project from some of our Scandinavian colleagues. So it's pretty awesome And well, we had a couple other references earlier that we'll add like later on and as we post this.
Great. And obviously, people think that I'm Russian. I'm not. I'm from ex-Yugoslavia, but I love Russian constructivism. So I started to play with. We have this posterized style that is also for just making different variations of stuff. Now, I'm not going to run all of these videos. This is for Rhino. I just want to say it's the same process. We made a couple of views in Rhino, and then just speed it up. You can, we have different filters aside from the style. We can say type of background or time of the day, and additional filters that simply allow you to, to get different results, be it dramatic and at night, or this one is watercolor. But to get something like this with a simple prompt within the different views, while you're talking, while you're tinkering on your own or with others or with a client, it's incredible thing. We are really taking this now for granted, and they're still kind of at the same time in awe. How is this even possible, right?
And can you even go back one? Like, there's something super interesting here. Like, one of the things that I really like about AI rendering and sort of like the motif intelligence in general is that it doesn't change the source. Like, it clearly there's like other aspects of it, but like one thing in comparison to some of these other tools is that because you're starting from the 3D scene, it doesn't hallucinate your geometry. Like that shape right there is fairly arbitrary, but look at how it maps to the other examples here. So it's preserving the outline, it's preserving the shape, it understands volume. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so for the details of that, number one, I know that some of that is kind of a trade secret, but
Hmm.
full credit goes to the ML team because we said we're not going to push any rendering if it changes the geometry of the building, because that makes no sense to architects, right? Models are non-deterministic. We took that as a goal and did tweaking and informing the model of what matters. But diffusion models are non-deterministic, so it might hallucinate in the background, but it will not hallucinate on the building because that is, that's what we were optimizing it for. Now, you saw that we have these watercolor styles, and why we did those was, again, not because you can, because we learned from architects that very often, depending on the stages of the design, depending on the sensitivity of project, they find sometimes the renderings really a little bit too perfect, which when you talk to a client or to a local community and you show perfect rendering of the future project, they don't feel that they have anything to say anymore. It's done. So it doesn't open door to conversation. And that's why we did the watercolor. And that's why now, in 1 week from now, you will have access to also sketch styles. So you can take any landscape rendering or any rendering that we did and simply convert it to a sketch style. I had a lot of Balkan confrontation about this. I'm like, why do we pretend to? That was not the point. It's not about pretending that you know to sketch. It's about last minute before the call, and this was just a client in New York who told me, literally a couple of hours before meeting a community, they realized, oh my God, they will freak out if we show this so perfect. And they just wanted to go back to something like this or something like this. This is also another style that we just added, which is the marker style, and it's just beautiful. So
I
this
have
is,
to say, I mean, these are, yeah, just the marker. And I mean, like all of us that have done, that are artists that have know how to draw and that also know how to do things in 3D, we've all blended these things together so long. And that it pained me so many times to be like, make that more blurry, make it more sketchy when you had a precise rendering. But it's useful because you don't want to get fixated on the small things. So going back to a really good sketch is just such an amazing aspect in communicating the design idea. So that's
yeah.
awesome.
And frankly, this doesn't mean again that people will not sketch. Hart Howerton, a really lovely architectural firm, their senior architects are incredible sketchers. They literally do almost like a comic book illustration of all the user flows, and they draw everything by hand, which is beautiful. But they can, for example, use the marker style to color code their drawings. So it's not discouraging something, but if we have already gone to all of these digital tools, we can bring back some of humanity back, and
Yeah.
enable conversation to happen. So and just one more. This one was a little bit fun, but some of us live in areas where it rains a lot, and we added the style after the rain. It was not, you can argue that we were a little bit too geeky, but we did it for different reasons that I can maybe talk to you later. But basically, for the reasons of can I actually simulate if the rain will fall in certain areas depending on how long the canopy is or not? And I'm proud to say that the models and our optimization is thus far that now I can test different design options, and it will show me if there will be snow underneath or rain, etc., which is, oh my God, starting to go in a direction that can be really, really interesting, right? So now you mentioned sketch, right? And here is one use case where you already have some simple sketch and you just want to do a full-blown rendering, or in this case, I just said watercolor. I'll just speed this up, but you can bring your holiday sketches or your first idea.
So these are all things that we have had, right, for a while, like since like the summer and fall. I'm just kind of like, what are the things that are exciting you now that has been released more recently? Like, so like the sketch aspect of this is like adding that to it is super cool. It's super interesting. I'm just thinking about like in terms of
Yeah,
like the
look,
overall time.
yeah. So look, the general topic of sketch to me is incredibly exciting, and you have started this already in Motif again. With our thinking is, can sketch and storytelling be, become again first-class citizen in the way we architects were expressing ideas or communicating ideas, etc. We're showing here the rendering. This, by the way, was done by our machine learning engineer lead Divya, who is not even an architect, but this is how crazy these things can go. And this is now where with Nano Banana in Motif we can do. This is nuts to be able to simply sketch first ideas and get such a feedback, right? But this is also incredibly exciting. We have, as some of you know, in Motif, this 3D sketch that basically you take the sketch tool, you touch any of the surface in 3D, like a reference plane, and you can sketch on top of it. So this is a little bit sucky because I didn't have a digital pen at the time, but this is a tower, and just wanted to, on top of the tower, imagine some kind of a playground that might be there just for fun. And I literally just gave a prompt. The first results were a bit cheesy, if you ask me, but after a couple of tests with prompt, that was the result that it gave me. And this, I think, starts to enter the whole world of can we go back to the natural ways that we have been, expressing ourselves. But when we started with this, we realized soon, okay, architects love this, but they wanted control over stuff. And by the way, this is also a case where, I'm sitting in a coffee shop or something, thinking about the new project, sketching, and all of a sudden I'm starting to put the glasses together or some stones together or something. And you can literally take a photo and also transition that. Now, what we recently added was image to video. Again, in Motif. And to me, this was mind-blowing because I could not believe that, again, without understanding camera moves, etc., I could just say, first, this also works just with a click, so single point video, but I could also say, go, enter between the buildings and stuff. This is crazy, right? And we can do that also with Enscape rendering. If while you were working on Revit, you were using Enscape, Enscape makes these gorgeous white renders. Well, I have that, and now I say, make a video that start bringing to life the elements in this interior, and it just does this. So it's really powerful. Now, of course, these renders are short. That is a limitation of the current foundational models. And we're trying to see, we're already working on multiple images to video so that you maybe define the first and the last image. And here is
But
my,
the fact that it's doing that at all, like these vignettes are amazing, and I kind of feel like it's magical. Like, how does it even know how to do that? Like from an AI standpoint, I don't understand. That's amazing.
and if you think that I will explain it to you, I won't. It's really hard, but and it's also amazing to see. I'll just run this while we're finishing with the videos. But if you just see, sorry, there is a sound on some of these, but these were just some of the tests. I mean, look at this one. We can literally simulate, how people are populating the room, how it looked before when it was empty. And in this one, I don't know if you saw, we can even with text now animate elements on an image. It is incredible, right? So yeah, this is a little bit nutty, if you ask me. And I have no idea where will all this go with this speed of development, right?
And just a reminder that anybody that's on, you feel free to add questions. The Q&A is open, and a lot of these are really like now that we're getting into some of the newer stuff. Like, there's a lot of really interesting questions coming in. Just in the interest of time, want to keep on going before we take some questions. But I mean, like I said, the video stuff is amazing. Even though it is a little thing, it's almost like the first time, like back in like the Harry Potter video or movies, like when you see like an animated picture, like it's like, wait, what just happened there? Like that, it brings it to life, right? So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And the models are getting so better. It's just crazy, right? And by the way, this is the thing. Now, when I see what the digital transformation people are doing, oh, they do all this Confi UI, this, that, because they're trying to test all these foundational models that keep on arriving every day and better, and now it's Sora 2 and Image Gen 5 or whatever. And as you can see, we try to eliminate all of that from the need of somebody having to do that. And what we do is we support all the models, but in the background, depending on if somebody wants to create something or edit something, we then switch the models. Now, for ease of use, that's great. But of course, people want access to that. So we just enabled this, and it will come again in the next release, where you can actually choose the models and then try yourself if you want to fiddle and want to see which model produces better results. Because to be honest with you, now the models are starting to be so much better that there is no more this is better. It's a question of taste. What's important for us to mention here, though, is that we only work with foundational model companies that in the contract, they commit to not train with our customers' data. We have not signed a couple of contracts with tools that are used just because they do not want to sign. They want to train with your data. So know that not only as a company, Motif, we commit to yourself, but we pick our partners also. So you see here, I changed the model to Nano Banana and to Image Gen, and it produces slightly different results, sometimes even dramatically different. Which one do you prefer? Then you choose and do. And the same we do for video. We have multiple support for multiple video generations. Okay, we got to move
I think
forward.
that Yeah, so like just one comment there, just at a high level. So you mentioned that the partners that we're using for these foundational models, we're choosing them very precisely for intentionality because we don't want to violate our customers' trust. And we actually feel that's pretty important at the Motif level too. So we are not training on your data. We're not using it in a way that is going to affect your data is yours. We want to work with you for some of these things, but it's not training a larger data set. Your data is yours.
Yeah, I really think that's important. It's okay that we are all testing and curious and stuff, but do know that there is a big difference between somebody committing to you not to train with your data. Imagine you're working on a competition that you might win $50,000 or $50 million or whatever, and your designs are just going somewhere in the public domain. That's not cool, right? So I'll speed up a little bit. We also, what we started to hear from architects when they saw this, they were impressed, the ease of use, the quality of the renders, but we architects want control. We're not happy if we did not do something about it. So the first thing was just we did something small. Whenever we make a render, we can the system automatically can isolate whatever background the render did, and you can then take the transparent PNG and place it in on a street view photo or something, and all of a sudden, without even having a 3D model or anything, just place it on a street view or in a Google Earth, etc. It's super simple. But as said, architects wanted control, so we started moving more to the editing part. And now you can do pure prompt editing within Motif. Do something like, oh, make all the windows round. Well, that was a bad idea. I'm not going to do that. But prompt only goes so far with the description. We want to be able to define an area where we can change stuff. So we edit editing with lasso or region definition, and you can then, select whatever you want, and with the prompt say change the material or change the color or other stuff. So here is what we just edit in the latest release. This is controlled image rendering. I literally do a selection and just say, put sunshades on the window. And this is unexplainably.
How does it even do that? That's crazy.
Yeah, we're laughing all the time because seriously, there is no answer to.
But like, okay, just I'm gonna stop you for a second. Like, the concept of like uncanny valley, right? So it's like these weird little things that you see. Like it was coined after like whatever the Polar Express movie with Tom Hanks, like where like the animation was a little bit weird. Like it was amazing special effects, but like it wasn't quite enough to make it believable. AI kind of falls in that category a lot, right? Like the six fingers on a hand, right? Like those kinds of things are just memes now. How does it not, how do you not end up with those artifacts in our renderings?
Well, I said we have worked in the background to use the available technology. So this is not training. We are doing a lot of other projects that are actually creating new tools, but it's really about incredible lot of testing, optimizing. As said, it's different when you make views versus when you, just do traditional load an image and then render. So yeah, more than that, I cannot tell you because it's a secret, but we do incredible testing and we're not pushing features out that we see that can affect stuff. Now we have, thanks to customers of ours who have tested the rendering, we have found a couple of hallucination situations, and that was because there was a lingering sneaky line that came with the Rhino model that was in Rhino and you couldn't see it, and all of a sudden, but why is it making a building here when there is none in the background? And then we found out, yeah, there was some reference. We keep on testing with our customers and keep on improving. This one I love because I love Corten. I wanted to see, can we even simulate over time how material changes? And that's really also incredible. And this one is my favorite just because it's again, no, not this one, the next one, where I selected an area and just tried to change the type of panels and stuff. And it created just some beautiful, textures
This
here.
is amazing. I do want to just be respectful of time, but like yeah, this is a great one too. So this one isn't out yet, right? This is
No, so
coming.
this comes in a week from now. We finally added image reference again, control, or respecting architects' work. Usually we still cut or circle in magazines or something, stuff that we want to use as a reference, or simply, I want to stay in this color palette. I just upload the palette and say to the model render, but respect the palette. This one, I literally was jumping up and down. And by the way, I'm ashamed to say I did snapshot this from the web, and I think it's SOM. I don't remember, it was from a photo, but I literally loved the pattern, and I just put this image. I put the original rendering and just said, apply the pattern, and I got this. Let me see. Yeah, this applied just simply by using that image as a reference. This to me was like the beginning of, wow, is this a way to start projects in the future? From sketch to
Yeah, so just show notes. That's an ADIS. It's ADIS Architects in Abu Dhabi.
Oh,
So yeah,
good.
cool.
Thank you. And this is the last thing that I want to talk about. Again, not just doing things because they're possible, but understanding what is useful for architects. We know that just one image, one view render is not enough. This is not yet solved problem to get consistency across multiple views of the same building, like this and this. So we're approaching this now as well, because it's important. You don't want to do 2 renderings, 3 renderings of different views of the building and just show different styles of renders. So okay, anyway, I'll stop sharing just because you can never stop me from talking.
Oh, well, I'm not asking you to stop talking. There's a bunch of questions that came in, so let's get into some of those. So, I guess the foundational one that a lot of people ask, like as we're working with customers around the world and showing this off, the first question that comes up is like, how does the image know to keep its geometry accurate? And then even beyond that, how does the video know? Like how do you take like a still shot and then walk through like an underpass to a spot that you don't actually see in the picture? Like
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing.
I'm so sorry to say I will not be able to explain this. You
Mm,
think that just looking at a little bit understanding how diffusion models work might help,
mhm.
but it beats me.
Okay.
Seriously.
No, that's fine. It's a fair answer. So, um, the other aspect of it, like you mentioned this term that I'm not sure people may understand, which is non-deterministic. Can you define what that means?
Well, just basically, if you want to replace the word to me, this is, you cannot guarantee the same results. When we were working on traditional CAD tools, they were deterministic. We were writing code to write rules. We were simulating all scenarios in which people can use that. We're writing the answers, and we always knew that if we move this wall in Revit, that is what it will do. If we ask it to do a schedule, that is what it will do. AI does not work like that. AI has never been coded. There is no coding rules or anything. It simply infers information or what's better or what's worse or what you should do based on millions of examples that it sees. One analogy I always make is why do we recognize our boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife in a crowd of 300 people or when they're just at their backs or even behind the curtain? Nobody coded this is the proportion, and this is the size and this is the math. It is from the
Hmm.
continuous exposure to something and all of a
It's
sudden
pattern matching.
learn
It's all
exactly.
pattern matching.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that gets back to this idea of reinforcement, which is a fundamental thing in AI, and also just in general. Like, there's a really good quote from a friend of mine, this guy Daniel Davis, who said, "If you replace any breathless press about AI or machine learning, if you replace the AI with math or statistics more specifically, it makes it like less scary because it's like AI is going to take your job. It's like statistics will never take your job." But that's basically how these things work, is that they're
Yeah.
just probabilistic, like looking at things and saying it's most likely like this, right?
Exactly, and probabilistic is probably also the right word. But we have to also agree that this is not instead of physically correct rendering when you really need to understand light and quality and this and that. But we also have to agree that accuracy and precision, while important in certain phase of design or for certain deliverables, are not always needed. Sometimes you just need, is this good or bad? Is this even go in this direction or not? And that is the value of these tools, to give some early preliminary insights or help together explore some things early on before we commit to go further and model or
Mm.
simulate or involve experts in the field. I think that's really important.
And that's a good point. So it's almost like optionality. It's like playing what if, and that's actually another question here is like, if I see something get changed in the image, how do I basically get that back into my model? And the answer is you can't right now because the model is like the jumping off point. Like you literally are jumping jumping off like a diving board into this other world. And you can't really bring things back from there right now,
Well,
but we are adding things that
I
let you.
don't agree with you. You
Hmm?
cannot
Okay.
today. You cannot today, but actually we are working on image to.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. So I'm just trying to go through the questions. So today, I'm not talking about future. I'm
Oh no,
saying in the current
today question.
tool.
Yes.
Yeah, so these are all today questions. This is like current tool. You have the state of your model that you made, and then you can create these artifacts that are, coming from a scene or a view or the state of the model that are images plus plus. Like they have extra stuff in them, and you can enhance them with the prompt and kind of make mutations or iterations or evolve them. But the result of that isn't changing your model right now. Maybe there's a way to do that in the future. We can talk about that in an upcoming episode. I'm just going through the list right now just because of time.
Yeah, yeah. No, no,
The
sorry.
other one of the other more practical, tactical questions is like, what resolution can I? These images are amazing. Like, what resolution can I get them out at, and can I use them in different presentation formats?
I'm actually glad that this question came up. We don't yet have 4K, and we are working on upscaling. So one thing that is important to understand in Canvas to keep the performance of the overall experience better, you might see it not in full resolution, but if you download the image, it is in a better resolution. But we are adding upscaling because we know that, yeah, we want super sharp images, right?
That's great. And then the other questions we talked about. This is your data. We're using foundational models. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're using foundational models from other people. We are developing some of our own that are in the future, but they're not the way we feel pretty strongly about your data is your data. We're not using the data that's coming into our system right now to do any training. We will be using other models to assist that, but we're not actually using the data flowing through the system
No,
because that.
yeah, this has to be perfectly clear. We have, and you're all welcome to take a look at Tamar Hanspel's post on LinkedIn about the transparency that is really key tenet of our company, and about the fact that your data is your data. And not only we don't use it, as said, we do not sign any partnerships with foundational models or any future partnerships for other things that we're looking at now if they cannot commit to not do that either.
I think it's a really good point. That was like 3 or 4 different questions that were similar to that, but that's kind of the gist of it right now.
Yeah.
So this is great. So we are talking about like near term, like what's in the product now or in the near future. I think one of the cool things that's happening is because we're a young startup, we're investing in this. So machine learning is foundational to the future of this profession. How can it enable and unlock and empower our generation of designers and the next generation of designers is really important. So definitely great work from Tanya, you and your team. And I'm sure we'll see more of that in the future. Let's see. And I'm just looking for any other questions here.
Yeah, I just want to finish with one thing. We focus today, obviously, on rendering and images and giving full control to really get into that. Of course, we're working on so much other stuff that
Mhm.
there will be time to start sharing more of that. But basically, the whole world at the moment does pretty much similar approach. One is they're foundational models. They do great stuff, but they're only useful if they're industry specific, if they're in workflows, etc. So there will be work that we are wrapping technologies, but adding our industry expertise, putting in smarter workflows, making them easy. And then there is other things that we're doing on our research side that are industry problems that AI has not yet solved, for which we are training data, we're training new models, and I cannot be more excited for the day to show the audience some of those.
And that's really the call to action. Like if you guys are interested in this space, for those of you that have been following what we're doing in Motif, or maybe this is your first time on the episode, we want to work with you. Like we work with leading architects and engineers around the world. Anybody that's interested in the next generation of technology, we're building things for our generation, like people that are in practice today and people that might still be in school or not even thinking about the profession yet. How are things changing? So that's our mission. And if you want to work with us, if you want to collaborate, just reach out. Reach out. There's a link on the
Because then
website.
we can share more and you can take part of building that together with us, because we're not going to build it without you. This is not a
Exactly. And we don't know all the answers. Like none of us do. And that's the point. We're going to figure this stuff out together. So thank you, Tanya. I really appreciate the time and your enthusiasm for this stuff and your leadership. And if you, for those of you that don't know her, she's got a great social media background. You can find more of
what?
her work online. And
You
like just
sourdough
it,
breads?
it might be in Macedonian, a 2 hour long interview in Macedonian, but I'm sure you can get Google Translate on that as well. So with that, I want to thank you. Like I said, just one more of these episodes. This was episode 5 of From the Ground Up, and there's going to be one more to wrap up the year with our illustrious CEO Amar Hansball and Tanya and myself in a couple weeks on December 17th. So with that, thanks Tanya, and we'll
Thank you,
talk soon.
everybody, for your time. Appreciate it. Bye.